So good morning, everyone. I welcome you on this snowy Monday afternoon, at least in Warsaw. And today I have a great pleasure to introduce you to my fellow Ethiopianist, Kinga Turkowska, who will give a presentation on one of the Ethiopian monuments and how it serves the symbolic power in Ethiopia. So Kinga, the floor is yours. As usual, you have 1 hour for presentation and half an hour for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so now you should see my screen. One moment. Okay, now. Okay, thank you. So, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to take part in this seminar. And as maybe most of you know, I was supposed to give this presentation on the webinar space, power, space and culture 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I was a little bit sick at the time, so I couldn't make it. It was planned for 20 minutes, so I expanded this and also I updated and I added some information that I got yesterday. So it's really, I can say on time. It's really fresh, and also I'm okay. When I will talk about it, I will tell you why I'm so excited about it. So the presentation is about one of the issues that I researched in my PhD thesis. And in my PhD thesis, I focus on politics of memory and strategies of commemoration, memory sites in the city space of Addis Ababa. And I mostly focus on the memory of socialist Derg time and how to read this period from the city structure, which it could be called, the city structure could be called palimpsest. So today I want to, I will present you the one of the monument, and I will present you the connections between the memory, power, commemoration, and space. And of course, there are many different aspects which are interesting to show, but today I only focus to few of them, which is the location of the monument and also the transformation of the meaning of this monument after the collapse of socialist Derg. And okay, so in the beginning, I will start with presenting the terminology that I use, and of course, this is just this monument is just a selection of few of sites of memory. Taking the consideration of this monument, I will discuss how Addis Ababa can be read as palimpsest or as some say modernist ruin. Also, I will show you the importance of the localization of this monument, the Glacier monument. I will present the monument and its symbolism, and also I will talk about the transformation of the meaning of this monument. And in the title of my presentation, I use this term l'idémoire, which could be translated to English as sites of memory. This is just one of the translations because there are so many. And this term was used by first time it was used by Pierre Nora, who is French historian. And I just need to mention that there are more discussions about this term, like sites and places, memory and memories. So whether to use the term like sites of remembering or sites of memories, or perhaps maybe better sites where one remembers, and so on and so on. But today I will just use this first term I use, sites of memory. And the problem with this term is that Pierre Nora never fully define this, or precisely he didn't define this notion, as it was not his primary goal, and he rather wanted to raise the awareness of the wealth of research strategies which could be used to investigate the diverse form of the past and its continued existence in the present. And as I said before, Nora never defined this term, but it seems that he used it primarily to refer to institutionalized forms of collective memories of the past. And consequently, we can say that Nora used this term to refer to both to historical archive and monuments, as well to, for example, someone private apartment where people combats would gather and celebrate some festivals or some anniversaries of the important some important day. And also Nora speaks about the site in its literal meaning. So so it could be used metaphorically, like as I mentioned before, as all sorts of signs and symbols attract attention as potential repositories of the past, like events, processes, like real characters, artifacts, and symbols. But also it could be like something real. So the sites of memory could be the museum, statue, archives, and so on. So both of these real and metaphorical sites of memory manifest the same properties, which is like they are property of particular social groups, and they contain some of the values, like ideas, norms, behaviors, which are important for those groups. And I use this term sites of memory in Ethiopian context because I believe that it's useful in understanding local remembering and forgetting strategy. And as it was said by Polish sociologist Turkowski, he wrote that each time it's important to discover new forms of memory, unique storages, unique memory storages, practices, and categories. So it's necessary to conduct research on how the society remembers, so what kinds of commemorative practices they cultivate. And in Ethiopian society, there is still important role of oral culture, yet it coexists with a long tradition, writing tradition. So it should be I would underline that practice of commemoration, remembering and forgetting are shaped differently there in Western societies. So when I use this term memory site, I believe that it's useful to in analyzing this one of the most important monument in Addis Ababa. And before I start presenting you the monument, I would like to tell a little about reading city as palimpsest. So I would like to place this monument in the city structure, which monument is integral part of the city structure. So I use the term palimpsest, which also links me with archaeology, and the literary meaning is like connected to discovering layers of soil, like one after another. But also it's used in postmodern literature studies, or also in urban and memory studies. But what the term palimpsest mean? Like, what is the initial meaning of this? So this very basic meaning is that an ancient medieval manuscript written and which that earlier text has been scrapped or rubbed off. So so it means that palimpsest is something where semantically layered texts in which hidden meanings shine through from beyond in the literal meaning. So a text with hidden meaning go beyond its literal meaning. So of course it's like my what I thought is of course about Ethiopian wax and gold tradition, seminar work, which also there are also hidden meanings of the text. But here in this postmodern theory, it's something like reading for example, the text which was known before, but reading it with the new through the new perspective. So this palimpsest, it could refers, as I said, both to like terms of general like discourse, but also to the artifacts, so something material. That's why it's also used in this context of urban studies. And also we can say that every place is a palimpsest. So for example, we renovate apartments to erase the traces of the previous residents because we want to make it our own. So even if for various reasons it's not much changed, we still look for the possibility that we want to make this place ours, and we want to make our presence visible. And we as a people, we do it not only individually, like in one's apartment, but also collectively. So we change towns or some spaces, sometimes because it's needed for some reasons, like just renovation, but also sometimes just to mark a new social situation or political change. And so it's also like with this was like with the manuscript, that history, it's the succeeding records are visible through the old places, through the layers which are hidden. And we can understand that this succeeding transformation of a place and succeeding records are the memory of this place. So it shows from one. I don't know if I say it correctly. I mean, if I say it as I wanted, but what I mean is that it could be the changing memory about the place. So this is one of the meaning of the palimpsest, but also this literal meaning that the place itself is changing. So one, that memory about the place is changing, and also the place is changing, but it's by itself. So in this exact situation, we discuss about the city of palimpsest. It's a very huge topic, and of course it's discussed in hundreds of the articles. So I will just mention this most important one, which was the concept of urban palimpsest, which was initially used by Andreas Huyssen to convey the conviction of that literary techniques of reading historically, intertextually, constructively, and deconstructively at the same can be woven into our understanding of urban spaces as lived spaces that shape our collective imaginaries. And what he meant, he described post-war and post-Cold War Berlin, so the city which contains different layers of the history. So what he wanted to say is that we can read the city as a text, and the city constantly reveals an awareness of the multiple past, and it's seen in the city structure, in the streets, in the buildings. And this metaphor of palimpsest, it's also quite often used in the Holocaust narrations. It captures the buildup of memory and post-memory, and it's used as this symbolic cartography of the Holocaust. And most of us is here, it's from Warsaw, so we can easily find places, for example, Umschlagplatz, which was once just ordinary space, ordinary square, but later became the place of death, the place where Jewish inhabitants of Warsaw were gathered, and then they were sent by trains to the death camps. So also the place, the neighborhoods, or the city area called Muranów, it was also the place after ghetto. So during World War II, there was a ghetto, Jewish ghetto, and then all this place was demolished, and it became a place after ghetto. And there was a now there is a new neighborhood built on that place. So even the buildings which were constructed in that place, they contain the materials and the bricks and the rubble buried, which were like initially demolished. So this, if we dig, even sometimes, maybe if you walk through Muranów, you could see if there were some constructions on the roads, you could see the remainings of the foundations of the buildings. Sometimes you can find some artifacts. So all of this could be called as a traces of memory. So memory, material memory, and also memories which are hidden deep inside, and they are all of them. They also could be together called as a collective memory. So this concept of palimpsest is used not only for the cities which were demolished as Berlin or Warsaw, but also could describe the other places like cities which were once multicultural, which have very complex history. For example, again, calling the Polish context could be, for example, Gdańsk or Silesia. So I found it interesting what Hussein wrote, because he wrote that Berlin as palimpsest assumes the existence of voids, illegibility, and also a wealth of traces and memories, renovations and new constructions that define the city as living space. So for me, it was interesting that this concept could be also used in Addis Abeba, as we can also use it. We can also call Addis Abeba as city of ruins, as it was once used and developed by in the very interesting article by Eleni Zentini-Zeleka. She also described the different layers of the city, and she was searching for the remnants of emperor modernist architecture, also of the dark time architecture and contemporary construction, how it all cooperates together. So in the next slide, I would like to show you in this illustrative map the location of the monument, and this is just illustrative map. It has its own like defects, because it's imprinted on Google Map, and I just did it for this presentation. And why it has defects? Because it's imprinted on Google Map, as I said. So it's it has its contemporary grid street plan, so we can easily compare it to the plan of the city from maybe 50 or 60 years ago. But generally, the location of the monument didn't change, of course. The monument is placed in the representative area. It's this, you can see this red pin. This is the Tiglachen monument. So it's placed on halfway between Addis Ababa City Hall, which is this orange pin, and the train station, the gray pin. And this place, the red pin, it's, as you see, there is also connection of the streets from Meskel Square, which today it's called Meskel. In the past, during dark time, socialist dark time, it was called Giot Addebabai, which means the Revolution Square. And also, as you can see, there is the connection with Arad Kilo National Palace, the green pin. Also, Jubilee Palace, where it was once the now it's Prime Minister Palace, but it was also used by the rulers, firstly by Haile Selassie, then by Mengistu Haile Mariam, and then by the prime ministers. So as you can see, this is very representative place, because there are governmental and different buildings, for example, African Union buildings, or buildings of different ministries. For example, very close to the monument, there was headquarters of Commercial Bank of Ethiopia. Nowadays, it's nowadays. I mean, like last year, it was moved to another building, but for many years there was this headquarters of Commercial Bank of Ethiopia. Also, as you can see, there is a National Theater in very close distance. So, of course, I didn't add so many places that maybe should be added here. But as you can see, there is this place is very significant. Yeah, there is also very important place. Yeah, so now I want to show you the area, how it looked like. I didn't add here one important spot that I should add. This is this building, which is Black Lion Hospital. It was constructed in 60s. So this is the photo from the time when it was still under construction. And here you can see it's not exactly the same place where I took the photo, but we can say that it's very close maybe to that place. As you can see, it's totally changed, this area, because nowadays there is a park which was open like last year, not last year, sorry, 4 years ago. And before there was just a residential area, this place. So the monument is just right in front of this Black Lion Hospital, and it was constructed here on this green area. And yeah, so you can see here there is Black Lion Hospital and the monument. So we can assume that the photo, that's the monument is somewhere, will be somewhere here. And I didn't say where this monument was constructed. It was in 1984, but I will tell later more about this moment. So also here I wanted to show you another perspective. Here is the photo from 1978. And this red pin, it shows the place where probably where I took photo when I was in Addis last year. Maybe it should be a little bit to the right side, but generally it's the same area. So we can see that before the construction of the monument, there was literally nothing, just a free empty space in that area. And here, and why it's also important to talk about this photo, because from here you can see Arad Kilo here. This is the Arad Kilo. And this photo is taken from Arad Kilo, and you have to trust me that somewhere here there is monuments. This is not this tower you can see, but I zoomed it and I found it somewhere here. So generally it's visible if you know where to search for it. And at the time when it was constructed, of course, there was no such such buildings like these, there were the city was less congested. Okay, and this is the photo taken on Churchy Road, so the city, so the street which connects the Addis Ababa City Hall and the railway station I mentioned before. And here you can see this is the Addis Ababa City Hall, which is the office of the mayor of Addis Ababa. And on the other opposite direction, there is a railway station, which nowadays this place is fenced, and it's not possible to take photo there because it's under construction. And these are the projects of the new real estate, which are building now. And this luxury real estate, it's based in Abu Dhabi, or in Dubai, no, not in Abu Dhabi. So this place will be like, as you can see, very luxury, and as I heard, it won't be possible to enter this place just like easily from the streets. It will be somehow fenced and yeah, and not accessible for everyone. And why it is so interesting, because here you can see the other monument, which was constructed by Emperor Haile Selassie, and it shows Lion of Judah. So Lion of Judah looks toward the Addis Ababa City Hall. And also I should mention, very important thing, that, sorry, I will just go back, that here this place where is Addis Ababa City Hall is not only this place, but also there is Kudus Georgis, means St. George Church, which was the first one of the first churches in Addis Ababa, and the place of coronation of Haile Selassie. Yeah, so what I wanted to say is that this street is very important, like one of the few streets which has its own name, and also this street name is used by people, because I would say that probably no one knows that, let's say, this street is called Sudan Street. People just remember that this street is the street close to Ras Hotel, or close to Addis Ababa, not Addis Ababa, Ethiopian television broadcast corporation. So generally in Addis Ababa, people don't use names of the streets; they just use the names of the actual spot. For example, buildings, or just something like Square Tewodros Square. But this street, Churchy Road, is used by people. Okay, so. Okay, so here we are, and now I want to tell you about the monument. So it was erected in 1984 for the 10th anniversary of the Derg Socialist Revolution, and also it was on September. So also on that day of the revolution, the Workers' Party of Ethiopia was established, and also the monument was erected. I mean, there was a celebration of this monument. So the monument was manufactured by the North Korean art Mansud the art studio. I don't know how to call this studio. And as you might know, this studio is very famous because it's there are several projects in different parts of Africa which were constructed in North Korea. For example, this famous, very huge monumental monument of African Renaissance in Dakar, in Senegal, or here you can see a monument from Botswana, but also, I mean, these two monuments are recent, but this monument was from the 80s, and also at that time some monuments were erected in Africa, and they were made by North Koreans. So, as I said, the ceremony of opening of this monument took place during the anniversary of the revolution, and as you can see here, there is Fidel Castro who took part in the ceremony. Here you can see Mengistu Haile Mariam, the leader of communist Ethiopia. And why there is Fidel Castro here? Because it's connected with the monument. I will tell you maybe a bit after a few minutes. And here I wanted to show you a few photos from this from the military parade, and generally from the parade which took place in September 1984. So here you can see the construction of arches, and these arches were they stand in Addis Ababa for maybe more than 20 years, actually to 2000 something, and then they were of course they lost their color. Maybe these letters were not visible, but they were standing. Unfortunately, I don't have the photos of this. This is just the information I got. But other decorations were removed shortly after the collapse of Derg, and some even before the collapse of Derg in 1987, when Ethiopia turned again to the Western countries. So they reconstructed some of the symbols of socialism. And here you can see the spectacle, which was made also by or with the cooperation with North Koreans. And here you can see this typical spectacle which North Koreans are known for. And here, yeah, some more decorations, and the representatives of church and also Muslim community in Ethiopia. They also took part in this ceremony. Okay, sorry that this is in Polish, but generally here there is information written that Marxism and Leninism are leading us, or yeah. So interesting is that this Triglacian monument was not the only one which was erected in at this time, because also Lenin statue was standing in front of Addis Ababa City Hall, the building I showed you before. And there were some other monuments, for example, the small Marx monument, which was standing in Addis Ababa University. I think nowadays, like a few years ago, it was demolished. Someone put green color on it, so I think I'm not sure if it's still there. Maybe it was removed. And this is some mural on the gate of probably Addis Ababa University. And in 1991, the monument of Lenin was removed. Those of you who are from Poland, you might think about the statue of Dzierżyński at Warsaw, Dzierżyński Square, now Plac Bankowy Square. But here the history was a bit different, because this is also what I heard, that generally people gathered here because they were so interested how it will look like the removal of this huge statue, how it will be like technically how it will be conducted. So they wanted to see it, not just because it was the symbol of socialism. But of course, we cannot say about the what every of each people who were there, what they were thinking, right? And here it's interesting what happened with this statue. So the Lenin statue is placed, probably still now, behind one of the governmental office in Addis Ababa, and it's neglected. Like, as you can see, it's not yeah, there is just literally nothing around, and this the access is not possible. I wanted to go there. Maybe next time I will be able to see this statue. Okay, so here I wanted to show you and tell finally about the monument. So the monument is it has few parts, let's say. So one is the obelisk, which is like 50 meters, and it's topped with the red socialist star. And you can see the different height of this statue. So the Tiglachen monument is the actually the taller, like the biggest in Addis Ababa. Here there is the Martyrs Monument and Victory Monument. They are quite smaller, and the last two, they are obelisk and stela from Aksum, the city in the northern part of Ethiopia. So those last two pieces, they are from, of course, from ancient time. So you can still see that this Tiglachen statue was very huge, and yeah, and this dominance could be easily seen. But on the other hand, here is the mural in one of the Addis Ababa cafe. And actually it's Azmari Bet, not cafe, and you can see that it looks quite different. So for example, Tiglachen monument is almost the same size as Lion of Judah monument, which is of course not the same. And here you have the Victory monument, and yeah, it's the same size, which in reality it's small like this. Okay, so on the 30 meters here you can see the replica of the Socialist Ethiopia Heroes Medal. And it has these socialist symbols. And the other parts of the monuments are the tableau, which fence, we can say, this square. So the left tableau depicts the misery of suffering, misery and suffering of Ethiopian people before the revolution. Yeah, it's here, and here you can see probably emperor who is just who doesn't pay attention to the suffering of the people. And on the other hand, there is Mengistu, who is teaching workers, and they are ready to fight. And also there are some slogans like lands to the tillers, which were demanding for example, the land reform. And on the other, the right tableau shows Mengistu, which is huge here, as you can see. He's much bigger. His figure is much bigger than other people. So he's shown as a leader of Derg, and he's leading people, and they are laying down the foundation of socialism. Yeah, here, sorry, there is some strange pictures. So generally, you can see also some parts of Ethiopian life, like making flour, or yeah, or generally way to the socialism with the workers and also with the farmers. So this is very easily identified concept of socialist communist concept. And here you can see the statues of soldiers, and those soldiers were Cuban and Ethiopian soldiers who were fighting against Somalia in the Somali War of Ogaden. And the war was in between 1977 to 1978. And thanks to the cooperation with Cuba, Ethiopia finally won, even though in the first months of the war, Somalis were they took like very huge part of Ethiopian lands. And here you can see some other parts of this monument. Here is the main part, but here there are some small parks, let's say. And those parks are fenced with the tableau with the photos of fallen, killed soldiers from Cuba. So each of the soldiers they have names, so you can read who is on the photo. So generally it looks like this. Of course, you can see also the like the soldier's figure here, especially it's visible from the far. And these photos were taken in like 4 months ago. But when I was in Addis few years ago, first time in 1912, this place was it looked different, because just make it this long story short, after the fall of Derg in 1991, there were discussions about removing this monument, but finally it wasn't removed. First of all, because it was very costly, and the example with the Lenin statue showed that it was quite a big, very complex operation. But also other very important fact was that this monument was not only the symbol of communism and the symbol of Mengistu, but it was also the symbol of victory of Ethiopia over the Somali. So this was the thing that was highlight here. But it's also important to say that in the first, especially in the first years of new coalition, maybe till 2005, generally Addis Ababa was not that much. Of course, the city was still under construction, but after 2005, the different constructions were intensified. But this place was, we can say, forgotten or neglected, because of course there were some services that took there were cleaning, for example, but generally nothing much happened. But after 2018, again we can see the transformation of this monument, and I want to tell you now about this a little bit. So generally the Tiglachen means our struggle. That's the main meaning of this monument. I mean, the name of the monument is Our Struggle. It was also called as the Derg Monument or Ethio-Cuba Friendship Memorial Park. As you could see, there is a park. But nowadays it's more it's known more as a Dilachen, which means our victory. Of course, this Tiglachen and Dilachen, as you could hear, it's very similar. But yeah, but Dilachen, our victory, is simply refers to this victorious war. And when this transformation started, as I said, after 2018, when Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali came to power, and there was very discussed and controversial meeting of former Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn, who went to Zimbabwe, where Mengistu still lives, and he met with him, and he posted this on Twitter. It was I mean, he was criticized by different options, but at that time, still there was not much going on around this monument. Of course, there were some associations or some groups, maybe not formal, but some groups that were meeting on 5th of March, which was yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, but generally on 5th of March, there is an anniversary of the Battle of Karamara, which was like one of the changing point during this Ethio-Somali war. So there were people meeting for all those last 30 years. But what I observed is that in last 2 years, let's say, there is a big change, especially after the war, when the war in Tigray started. So there were also public, how to say, generally public calls for to I just lost my thought. Generally, Ethiopia was against America, which America was again against war in Tigray. So there were some calls like America hands Hands Off Ethiopia, or Stop to Neocolonialism. So Western countries were referred, or they were seen as neo-colonial countries, while, for example, Russia was seen as a country which always stand for Ethiopia, and of course Russia didn't criticize Ethiopia for war in Tigray. So here I wanted to show you a few photos from yesterday, because yesterday people shared a lot photos from this anniversary, this celebration. And unfortunately I couldn't find, but I remember that 2 years ago also Abiy Ahmed Ali, he shared also like a letter of this anniversary day. So it was 43 Karamara Victory Day, and he wrote a letter to the soldier, and generally to Ethiopians, that people should celebrate this day. And here you can see yesterday there were such events, like people dressed in Mengistu's clothes, like this army military dress. And when I was searching who was sharing this information, of course I didn't check it. Maybe like today in the morning I didn't check. Maybe there are some updates. Maybe Abiy also shared some information. But here you have some associations, like governmental associations, and also some also political parties. And what is interesting, that some people started connecting Adwa, which the celebration of Adwa was on the 2nd of March, so 2 days before this Karamara victory. So they start to call it and to connect it. So first Adwa and then Karamara. As you could see, there is a translation of this tweet, which was shared in Amharic. And here also it's yeah, actually this one is the translation. And just finishing this, here you can see some few photos of the paintings that were painted by the youngsters of Addis Ababa. And this I visited this gallery last October, and there was an opening ceremony of this exhibition. And the title of the exhibition was Addis Ababa, Addey Ababa. Addey is this yellow flowers you can see here. So the meaning was like Addis Ababa as a blooming city. And I captured on the few of these paintings. I saw the monument of Derk. Here it's maybe not visible, but it's here. You can see the red star. And I was talking with those young painters about why did they painted this symbol of communism, which maybe by some of Ethiopians is still considered or seen as this traumatic and negative, let's say, past. But they seem to understand this just as a part of the city structure and part of the city landscape. So yeah, I think this is all what I wanted to show you. Very interesting is this changing of the meaning of the monument, which we can see in the last few years. So I will be glad to hear your comments and your yeah, any questions. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Kinga. And now we have time for discussion. So either you raise your hands or just speak up. Okay, I can see that everyone's quite shy. So I think I can start. So maybe I missed that out, but what is, because you've been to Ethiopia last September, I guess, if I remember it right, what is, you talked with the people, what is the reception of the monument? Do people find it, how do they find it?
Yeah, so I was, actually I spent like 2 or 3 days sitting next to the monument and also talking with people there. And people were coming and taking photos in front of the monuments. So I was discussing with them why you are here, what's your understanding of this monument, and what I mostly heard is this narration about the dark time as a time of the history of Ethiopia when the nation was united, and when there were some conflicts, people were killed in Red Terror, but generally there was one Ethiopia, and there was no problems with different ethnic groups, so people were like gathered around one idea of common one Ethiopia, which is of course not exactly true. There are different in different parts of Ethiopia. There were groups that were fighting for their independence. So this is still the perspective of capital city and Addis Ababa. And also in my PhD work, I focus only on Addis Ababa because if I would discuss this topic with the inhabitants of remote areas, that would totally change probably the understanding of this. Of course, I have it in my mind, but also interesting, like coming back to your question, it was really interesting what people was talking about Mengistu, and because he's still alive, he's now 80 something, and there are discussions whether he should come back to Ethiopia or not. As you might know, he was sentenced to death in Ethiopia, but he's seeks for exile in Zimbabwe. And majority of the officers or generals or from their army, they spent some few years in jail. Or there was also a very famous case of 2 ministers who were actually they were 3, but one didn't survive. They spent almost 30 years in Italian embassy in Addis Ababa, and finally they were pardoned by the president of Ethiopia. So yeah, and they were released. So also they wrote the books about their these 30 years they spent in embassy. So it's interesting to see what people talk about Mengistu, and what I see is that people seek this. They have this nostalgia feeling about their imagined peaceful time of Derg, which could be a little bit compared maybe to the situation in Poland. Like some people miss this Gierek time, which is considered as a Szynka from Gierek time, and stuff like that. So I cannot say that this is the same, but we can maybe look for some similarities here.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I guess that going back to this, notion, and I also was thinking about it in Poland, you have people saying like, communist time, please come back. But I think it's more not about the unity in Poland, but more about the youth of those people when everything was easier, and they have strength and they have power to do things. And nowadays they're at the autumn of their lives, if you may say that. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, but in Ethiopia, it's not only the old people are talking in this way about Mengistu. This is also in the among youngsters, like teenagers or people in their 20s, 30s. So they didn't live during their time, but they have this imagination, this imaginary view of this dark time. They think that during dark time there was unity of the country, and people were focused around this flag of Ethiopia, which is also something really important for some Ethiopians.
And where does that notion come from, this nostalgia among youngsters?
Sorry?
Where does this nostalgia among the youngsters come from?
I think this is a very interesting question. This is what what I'm researching. I think it's focused around this leader who unified the whole nation, the whole country. And in the first few months of when Abiy came to power, he also had this very he was popular in his first few months. Later, it started to change, and nowadays, nowadays it's totally different. And again, inhabitants of Addis Ababa, I can say generally, but there is no information about this. But what I observe is that generally people in Addis they don't support the current government, but they still seek for this time of unity and peaceful time. Which, as I said, it wasn't really true, but this is what they have in their imagination.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Joasia.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. One is rather a remark connected with my image schematic thinking that I liked very much. This image or this photo of these diverse monuments, like which is higher and which is lower, and as I presume also some meaning is connected with the wysokość, height with the tallness, well, I don't know, of these columns. And another question is because you begin with this theory or metaphor, city and palimpsest, and I'm thinking because I'm not an Ethiopian, and there was a lot of images and contents with which I am not very much familiar. So I wanted to ask you to what extent this metaphor helps you in your, if you could say it in few words, in your investigation, what it shows important for you and in your research.
Mm-hmm. So the first question, I mean, it was not a question, right? But rather
a remark. Yes. But
so yeah, it was interesting for me as well when I saw this the perspective, how the monuments were presented, not only on this mural in this cafeteria, but also in the paintings of the youngsters. So it shows also that each of these monuments, they are important, but they are put together. They are not separated. So I think, as I understand it, is just the landscape of Addis, landscape of the city. It's rather the decoration, not the symbolic meaning. The symbolic meaning is hidden here. And about the second question, yeah, it's very interesting question. Thank you. I think it helps me to also to discover these different layers which are hidden, and also maybe not visible for me as a foreigner, because I didn't rise in this culture, so I have to discover it layers by layers. And also I think it helps me to use maybe to create some structure of my thesis. Yeah, this is something.
Thank you.
Okay, and another was Mr. Alula, who's queuing for questions.
Okay, thank you, Kinga, for your nice presentation. It was really interesting. I have one question and some comments. My question is, I think you have been in Addis a few years back, and you have been in Addis also 1 year ago. That means after transition. And I hope you observed some developments. As you have mentioned, there are lots of luxury projects like real estates, like parks, very, very big parks in different sites. And there are, under this project, lots of villages, especially old towns and something like that, are demolishing. And I have information that not monuments, of course, but old houses, old institutions like first pioneering institutions like hospitals, something like that, are demolishing. And how do you see the conditions, the current conditions, and the future of monuments and other heritage in Addis? This is my first question. And the second thing is that you presented your work on the months that the Ethiopians are celebrating two victory days. The first one is the Adwa victory, and the second one is, as you mentioned, the Karamara victory. And these victories have been celebrated by Ethiopians, you know, circling these monuments. This makes very interesting and timely that your presentation is very, very much, you know, it has something, you gave some life for that. But still there are big controversies among these monuments and about the ownership of these victories. And I think the first question by Susanna is very interesting question, and you have to work on that. As far as you know, you are working on these monuments. There is, I would say that there is a monument politics currently in Ethiopia. If you observe the celebrations in St. George at Milik Square, it was really, really terrible, and there was a conflict between two groups. We can say three groups, including the government, and there is something behind that. Again, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia didn't write about the victory of Karamara this year. I don't think that he will write. He wrote last year. And he received some opposition or disagreement from some groups, especially from Ethio-Somalis, because this war was not a war between Ethiopia and other nations. It was a civil war, and lots of Somalians were died due to this war. So we don't have to celebrate. This is a complaint from one group of the people. I'm not concluding, but simply to give a perception from the people, and they need deep research and a very systematic approach in order to understand the understanding of the people, the reflection of the people towards these monuments. And the nostalgia for the Mengistu, for including the youngsters, there is, it's true, you're right. But they are not because of nostalgia about socialism. Ethiopians by nature, like, the concepts of unity, something like that in that. His cliché word for Mengistu was Ethiopia. The successor of Mengistu, the PPDRF, was a federal system. And the Ethiopians believe that the successor of Mengistu, or the EPRDF regime, divided the country into two different regional states. Therefore, they are secessionists. They believe that this recent, including the current region, they believe that they are secessionists. Not only Mengistu, they love Menelik, Emperor Menelik, they love Emperor Haile Selassie. But which group of the people still have to study this? So this is a comment. And not to take time, I want to say something about the word Tiglachen and Dilation. There are two different terms. You mentioned it, but to explain, Tiglachen is the process, and Dilation is simply like a victory. Tiglachen is celebrating the process they made to achieve their goal, and Dilation is simply the last day, or the only day they are celebrating. And thank you very much for your presentation again.
Yeah, thank you, Alula, for your comments, and yeah, it's really interesting what you say. About what I have in my mind now is Abi's letter he wrote, I think 2 years ago, maybe, because it was a few months after the beginning of the war in Aksu, in Tigray. I think that was the time when he was, generally when Ethiopia was searching for this international, let's say, cooperation with Russia. And also there was this anti-neocolonial calls and so on. And I saw it somewhere, and then I couldn't find it. So I think he deleted this from his social media. Yeah, because I couldn't find it, and I really searched for this. And interesting is when you said about Dilation, it's interesting that when I was talking with young Ethiopians, they used the name of the monument Dilation, so our victory, not Tiglachen. Like they changed the name of the monument. So so for me it was like that they more refer this monument to the victory, not to this socialist symbolic, let's say. And your question, how Addis Ababa is changing. So for me, it's when you look from this long perspective of change of Addis Ababa, we can say that each of the ruler of Ethiopia, starting from of course Menelik, but later Haile Selassie, mostly Haile Selassie, but each of them they want to construct the city as their own place. So Haile Selassie was he's known for this modernist architecture that changed the city. Also, of course, I didn't say about the time of Italians. They also deconstructed the city center. And later, maybe during their time, there were just this symbolic decoration in different parts of the city. Of course, there were also constructions of the buildings, like living buildings for the people. but they were not that big, so we cannot say that it's changed that much Addis Ababa. And well, nowadays, what I can see from my perspective, it's the process of demolishing the houses of poorer inhabitants. It didn't start now, it started like after 2005. When the different parts of the city, especially in the city center around Arad Kilo, for example, or even no, actually it started when, for example, Sheraton Hotel was built. This whole area was also inhabited by poor people, and one can say that there were like, that's called slums, but it wasn't slums. It was just the houses that were used to be in that place for years. So those people were moved, and they had to live in the cities, in the condominiums that they were constructed in the other remote part of Addis Ababa. So this process is still going on, and this area of railway station, it's interesting that it won't be open for everyone. It will be just like like a hotel, or because in Ethiopia, whenever you go to some place, like more luxury place, like hotel or a club or swimming pool, generally everywhere there are guards. Then they will check you. They will check what you have in your bag. So here, and of course, people who are maybe not well dressed, they cannot enter such places. So this area of the railway station will be also some kinds of the place only for rich people. This is how I see. I don't know if I answered
Yeah,
all what you said, what you asked, but
exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do you have any other questions or comments? Okay, so I'll just again comment that as an for ethnographer, for me, it's very interesting what Alula says, that how do you combine those two things, like people thinking about their time as the time of Ethiopian unity, and at the same time that you celebrate the monument that shows the struggle between two ethnic group. Yes, yeah, so, but let's hope we'll do those research together. Okay, so yeah, sorry, I interrupted you, I guess.
No, I said yes, it's interesting, but it's interesting in terms that people don't think that this was the civil war. They consider it as a war, just like Adwa. So war against some. Even I found somewhere that somebody wrote like black Italians, that Somalis were black Italians. So this this is just crazy Twitter, yeah, exaggeration. So I didn't even add this here, but
okay. Thank you very much. We need to finish. So thank you all for coming. We'll have one more seminar this month by the end of, I guess on 27th. Kamil Kuroshkiewicz will present this talk about dry mode. We haven't settled the title yet, but since he's very into that topic, it's probably going to be that. So thank you very much for participating. For those of you who are going to take part in our post-seminar publication, just a kindly reminder that the deadline was by the end of February.
Oh my God.
Yes, that's the right answer. Oh my God. And
Oh my
please.
God. Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Okay, but despite this fact, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Bye.
much. Bye.
Bye.